I think before you heard this M album, you heard about it and you heard about The Ringer. And I think that may have done an injustice to the album because I actually think there's so much good stuff that isn't the disses on the album, but we're getting so distracted. But I really feel like it's an in-depth album and he came with like fun concepts. And I think that's the stuff that really sets it apart from last album.
What's up, geniuses? Welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Rob Markman. Now, on Friday, the great, I think he's one of the GOATs. He's definitely great. Eminem dropped a new album, surprise album, Kamikaze, and it has everybody talking. We've been having these discussions in private. We've been having them on Twitter. I decided to bring a bunch of my friends to the show, and we're just going to have this all-out discussion right here. So I want to introduce everybody. First up, we have my genius co-worker, homie. She's the on-air correspondent for Genius News, Letty Peniche.
Hi.
What's going on?
I'm doing great. You're all ready to talk M.
I know you work on the West Coast. We normally don't get to do this, so this is going to be really, really fun, right? All right, man. Next up, we have my guy, man. We've been down for a long time. I love his perspective on things. Jameer Pond, media personality, man. A lot of hot takes out in these streets.
I'm ready, man.
You ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
Okay, and last but not least, I mean, we have a music journalist, veteran, right? Every time I turn on the TV.
I'm a medium G. I'm not an OG yet, medium.
Nah, you OG.
So like a MG?
When I
MG.
turn on MMNBC and I see you,
Yeah.
that's it. It's
We're
cemented.
doing some things.
So Sowmya Krishnamurthy, welcome to For the Record.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
to be here.
All right, so Eminem, Kamikaze,
Yeah.
came out, has everybody talking. Let's just go around and get immediate thoughts. First of all, this was something that we never seen coming. Sowmya, what did you think?
I think like the title Kamikaze, it just kind of exploded. I think Eminem came out firing. He sounds great. His flow is amazing. He's going after everyone and their mom. Like the shots are there. Is it going to be one of the most memorable releases of the summer? I don't know. It was a big summer. 2018 was big. So I'm not really sure about that one.
You let Forbes magazine tell it was what did they say? Underwhelming summer. I got smoked for Forbes, right? Because I didn't like that article. But anyway, Jameer, we're gonna get back to that. Jameer, Kamikaze, were there standout songs? What was your initial kind of response to this album?
This album was a rapidy rap album, as I like to call it, like a whole bunch of verbs and syllables and similes
Metaphors.
and metaphors, which I can appreciate. But like, all right, so me personally, I wasn't ever the biggest M fan, so it does really nothing exciting for me, but I appreciated that it was a lot better than his previous release and his previous releases. So, I mean, shout out to M for having that chip on his shoulder again and kind of stepping it up.
All right.
Yeah.
I think before you heard this M album, you heard about it and you heard about The Ringer. Like, I think point blank period,
Fire.
It could have just been that he released The Ringer the way everyone was talking about it. And I think that may have done an injustice to the album because I actually think there's so much good stuff that isn't the disses on the album, but we're getting so distracted by tracks like The Ringer and Fall. But I really feel like it's an in-depth album and he came with like fun concepts. And I think that's the stuff that really sets it apart from last album.
Right. A lot of the headlines, right, are, the broad view of this album is that Eminem is upset about the criticism he received for his last album, Revival.
Really?
He's clapping back at his critics and took shots at Lil Yachty, Lil Pump, Lil Xan, Charlamagne the God, See What Up. Donald Trump gets it. Migos,
I've
maybe.
run out of fingers.
Machine
You just
Gun
keep
Kelly.
calling so
Add on
many
mine.
add on yours.
Joe Budden, DJ Academics, Tyler the Creator, Earl Sweatshirt, and Lord Jamar.
I feel bad that he didn't name us. I feel he's named
Right.
everyone
Right.
but us.
Are
But
you
yeah.
offended that you weren't named?
I think it's a great look to be named in an Eminem diss. It's not a bad career, like a bullet point on your resume. And
That's
the
a good
thing
point.
about M is what's great is he cares. That's what I like. Is a guy of his stature, like in my mind, he's like in his mansion in Michigan, has no computer, is basically like I'm like an abacus and, like sitting by the fireplace.
Not
but
an
the fact that
abacus.
I did say abacus.
You said abacus.
I did, but I think what's great is he listens to his criticism. He knows what Twitter's saying. He
Right.
knows what the critics were saying. The last record was underwhelming, and I think the fact that he felt that and it made him want to do a record, I think is dope because he doesn't have to, you know, at his stage, he could just be a multi-gajillionaire, kind of live off like his legacy. But the fact he still cares makes me happy.
So I know he cares, but like,
Oh, he cares.
he cares
You can
a
hear
lot.
it. He cares
and
a
I'm
lot.
like, why do you care so much?
Because he's a rapper. And when you're a rapper's rapper, you care. Like when people say something about your rapping, that hurts you in your soul.
That's an excellent point. And for me, you ever hear the term, yo, he's doing too much,
He's
right?
doing too much,
Okay,
bro.
why is that a bad thing? Why is M is getting criticized? Like you had said early on, it was a rapidy rap album.
It was very rapid
and
rap.
I think a lot of people take that as negative in a world where nobody raps anymore.
Facts.
Like we accept
Facts.
the most non-rappingest shit from rappers
Rappers
ever.
say, I don't want to be called a rapper. They're like, when I interview some of these rappers, they say, no, call me a rock star. I'm not a rapper. So the fact that he's rapidy rapping, I think is great.
I really, when you say that and joke that M is at home with his abacus and it's funny, but I do think he kind of sits at home or sits in the studio really figuring out ways to connect words that he hasn't anymore. Because, this is a guy, competition-wise, if you want to talk sales in his career, there's very few that can touch him.
No.
Sure.
So that's not a driving factor anymore. And when you talk about rap, a ton of great artists, as far as putting words together and flows and connecting things, there are very few that can be mentioned in the same sentence.
He's a wordsmith, yeah,
A lot
for sure.
of it is competition with himself. Letty, am I off base?
No, I definitely agree with you there. But what I will say is, like, with this album and the clapback M, right? I'm used to the way I am M. Say whatever you want. Yeah, I'm that. Yeah, I'm this.
Right.
Okay, cool. Like, but I feel like the critique, the reason that he made this album, or as he says, or as we're saying, is because of the critiques on last album. Yet he's also agreeing that last album was an L, and he's also saying, like, on Fall, at the end of that video, he steps on Revival. So you're saying you don't like the album, but you're also dissing everyone that didn't like the album.
Right.
So it's like you're on their side. Like, they're literally saying
He's
what
a
you feel
complicated
about
man,
it.
Letty. He's
Yeah,
a complicated man.
I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, don't give them that time of, like, diss whoever you want,
that's
but
what
it's
I'm
like,
saying.
like your reasoning is the same thing you feel. Like, it just, that part is what is confusing.
But here's
to
my
me.
question. If there wasn't backlash, would he feel that way? Right? Like,
For
let's
the
say,
album?
yeah, let's say everyone loved the last album. It did great critically, commercially. Would we have gotten this album? I don't know.
No, not in this
No,
way.
I don't think in this way. But like to go back to that point, I just I feel like it's good to have a rapidy rap album. I like
As a rapper, I like when you rapidy rap,
If
yeah.
you rapidy rap, you rapidy rap.
Sure.
The thing is, you clapping back at people that don't even deserve a shot. You
Like
know
who?
what I'm saying?
Who don't deserve a
Yachty.
shot?
I don't think
Yachty.
Yachty deserves
Okay.
a shot.
Y'all didn't deserve a shot. Why Migos?
I don't think Yachty's
But-
fan base deserves
Well,
a shot, because
here-
let's
here's
be
the thing.
real. What he said wasn't a diss to Yachty. What he said was a diss to Yachty fans, because he's like, I get why you guys like it.
But
Some of y'all
that's
like
not
to
my
drink
taste.
lean when you listen to music. Some of you like Stan. So he's setting his fans apart versus the lean rap fan part. But my thing is, it's like, dog, you used pills. Like, you have a substance abuse issue. You drank a lot. It's like, and you put that into a lot of your music. So it's like, how are you gonna diss the fans for drinking lean when, like, a lot of your fans might have identified with your pill usage and with
Right.
your lifestyle? It's
I think it goes back to the rap. I think I read it as much less about the drug use of it and more about the fact this whole album to me feels like a guy who really loves and cares about the craft and the culture of hip hop as he grew up on it in a changing world. There's so many references to he raps about, oh, maybe if I'd have did auto-tune on the last album, y'all would have felt it. That wasn't gonna help. But what I'm saying is there's so much references to the changing world around him, and he's like, fuck it.
It's
I'm gonna stand up
generational.
for rapping. He has a whole
generational.
on the
Generational,
floor.
right? But where's that line between I'm repping for my generation and my craft versus the old guy standing on his lawn?
But
Like,
here's
get
the
off
thing,
my
here's the
lawn,
thing,
you know?
The worst thing you could be called in hip hop right now
Is an old head.
is an old head, right?
yeah.
And I don't think he's running from it. He knows who he is, but he's like, yo, the shit that I stand for, the shit that a lot of people are afraid to say because they don't want to be called old head, like The Fall, all the disses, Joe Budden, Machine Gun Kelly, all of that, right? The Fall has a whole verse dedicated to having a ghostwriter some bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's him like trying to figure out where he fits in in this kind of changing
It's
world
like
of
an
hip hop,
identity
where
crisis,
all of a
yeah.
sudden, like, ghostwriting was never cool.
Now
and
it's
all of a
cool.
sudden we don't care. Like,
Right.
okay, so if I'm Eminem, what the fuck am I supposed to do if everybody can go get their rhymes written and
And you
I'm
writing
sitting
your
here
rhymes,
trying to
dedicating.
outdo the last rhyme that I
Yeah.
fucking wrote?
It's generational though, like we just said. Like you can't tell a 18-year-old kid that.
An 18-year-old was born in 2000.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what's crazy to me, you
They
know?
don't care about
No.
about none of that. So me having those conversations with like my 16-year-old cousin is like in one end out the other because it's a huge generation gap.
But that's everybody, right? That was our generation. I mean, I'm looking at these
Exactly.
like records. I had that Mace record. I can't tell you how many old heads were like, "That's not rap.
That's not hip hop.
That's not
Right.
hip hop." So it's like to me, it's every generation feels what they grew up with is
real
real hip
hip-hop.
hop.
Of course, but and how do I stand but how do I stake my claim in something?
I think you
that
be
I love?
yourself.
Because at the same time, we talk about it as a generational thing, right? Oh, these kids don't care about who's writing their rhymes, but I think everybody's afraid to like offend the kids, right? Joey Badass is what, 21, 22?
Yeah.
Oh, his fans definitely give a fuck
Sure.
if Joey Badass writes his rhymes. You know who cares whether their fans or not write their rhymes? Kendrick Lamar, those TDE fans
Absolutely.
give a fuck. Those J. Cole fans
Yeah.
give a fuck, you know, and that's what they're standing for. So, you know, we kind of paint it as a generational thing, but is it a thing really? The fact of the matter is that M, to me, and you guys could agree or disagree, has always kind of shitted on pop music, right?
Even
Like,
though he was a part of pop,
but-
like you got to
yeah.
remember, this was the
No, he
guy
was
who
definitely
came
pop.
up.
I'm not afraid.
TRL, no, TRL
TRL,
was made
but-
for Eminem, so
Slim
he like
Shady.
plays both sides,
But-
where he's a pop star, but to your point, he doesn't want to be a pop star.
But he always shitted on pop, the
100%.
NSYNCs, the Britney
Britney
Spears,
Spears,
the-
Christina
and it always
Aguilera.
seemed like, yo, you're a big bad rapper. Why are you even concerned with pop? Well, guess what's more pop than hip hop right now?
Yeah,
The biggest
Exactly.
pop stars right now are these young
Drake,
Migos.
Travis Scott,
Yeah.
Migos.
So that's a good
The
point.
same shit that he's been fighting against his
Right.
whole career.
That's
Exactly.
that's a good point.
Exactly.
I just think taking the old, like, I understand taking the rapper stance versus taking the old head stance, because at the same time, like, if you're gonna use these very divisive now terms like mumble rapper or talk about like the lean use, which he did for Yachty fans, right? And Yachty is like, even though he doesn't want to be, he's the poster child for mumble rappers, right?
Poor Yachty.
he might
He's
as well
just
have
like
said
the
everybody.
He's a nice
And
kid.
he's a nice
He's a
kid.
nice
Like,
kid.
this kid is
And
like,
he isn't, and I understand
Taught
every word
you
that
commercial.
he
He's
got.
a nice guy.
in that aspect of it, it's the irony that you also do use the pump flow, the Migos flow, like, and you're using their trend in your raps too. So you're giving proof that that style works by using it
Saying
in your
that it
same
doesn't
album.
I
work.
saw it as satirical.
It is
almost, like-
satirical,
It
but
is
it works.
satire.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of my favorite parts of the album when he does like the Burger King Charlemagne, like the same
Yeah.
thing
Right.
that the little
But even the
Papucci
not
gang.
alike shit, he's just on the hook. He's just naming shit.
Yeah,
like
random
nonsensical shit.
yeah.
But it's over that
It's over
Look
the
Alive
beat.
beat.
It's the same
Yeah.
exact beat.
It's the same
Oh,
exact
totally.
beat. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing, but this song is fire. Like,
And then if
it's a
we're-
standout song.
If we're gonna talk about like how he's such the rapper, we also forget like this dude had really fun satirical music like predating what it is
Right.
today. Like,
Sure.
and at the same time, like, who trolled more than him saying like my baby mama's in the trunk, or like Dr. Dre's in the closet? Like, those
Like, I
are
cut my mom's
those
head
are
off.
those are things that were just for shock value. And today, what do we hate? How 6ix9ine is this shock value person all the
Yeah.
way around, and it's like, for a lot of things, he's the father of that. Like,
It's
I feel
interesting
like,
that he goes at Tyler because I feel
yeah, like
a lot of Tyler
D12 is
early
Odd
on.
Future. Like,
Yeah.
like D12
yeah, especially like early
was
Tyler.
the group that like clowned each other and was having fun, and like I feel like that not watered down, but like moved into what we see now with TDEs clowning each other, Odd Futures clowning each other. For better or worse, like, you got to look at it like, damn, look what I did. Like,
He's a little bit of a
Like-
hypocrite. He's a little bit of a
Well,
hypocrite.
those are your kids,
Yeah.
right? So as a dad, you can't be mad that
Claim
these are
'em.
the kids. Exactly.
Claim
your
Tyler.
children.
Rap is also.
you are hiding a child.
You are
man.
hiding a child.
Let's talk about. Let's get into the shits a little bit.
Okay.
Because there's two kind of real beefs brewing or rap beefs brewing. First one, let's address with Joe Budden.
Yeah.
Right now. So these are two guys who have a personal relationship. Joe Budden, as part of Slaughterhouse, was signed to Shady. And Joe was very critical about the last album in ways that M didn't like.
Right.
It has all been documented. And then M comes with the shot on the Kamikaze album, and then Joe responds on his podcast. What's your whole take, Letty? Let's start over there with Joe Budden versus Eminem.
I think there's a lot of real life myths that went on with their like separation. For the most part, these few years, it's just like, I think clearly since Joe's more in the spotlight with his podcast and kind of just being more of an outspoken part of hip hop, he's asked the most about the Eminem stuff. So he most has to like be like, oh, I respect him, or oh, he put me on. And for the, like, I feel like he's very respectful in that manner towards M, kind of not addressing the real issues that they might have had, which he now explains in his podcast. But I think like when the diss from M came, it was in a kind of like, not necessarily I made you, but like I put you on, like I fed you at one point. Why are you even saying anything remotely critical of me? Like, and that may happen sometimes. Like I think we've all had mentors maybe that kind of felt like when my name comes up, it has to be all praise. And if it's something that's not even a little bit praise, then it looks like a complete diss towards me. Like, how could you do that to me? And I feel like that is what made M say something about Budden on the record.
Well, it's personal, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's different is when it comes to beef, sometimes it's just professional. Sometimes these guys haven't even met each other. But I think in the case of those two, there's history. And no matter what, I mean, rappers have feelings too. And I think the same way when you have a falling out, the same way you have a falling out with your friend, you know, when you see them, when their name gets brought up, there's still like that personal history.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more than just kind of what the public is aware
It's
of.
interesting. Joe on his podcast revealed that Slaughtermouse, which is a dope record, he actually came to Genius to break this down, which is kind of an open letter to M, was originally intended to be a diss record, and Joe ended up changing it.
Well,
Because it's like, how could you be on
Yeah.
this guy's
So this
label?
was-
But
yeah.
like, this is
Yeah.
on me.
Hand to feed
So,
you.
but ask me this: now that M has dissed Joe, Jameer, Joe, who says he is retired from rap,
Yeah.
and in the podcast game, in the media game, in the content game, does Joe have to respond on record?
I don't think he has to respond on record. It's his choice if he wants to choose to. But again, Joe Budden is the now popular one. Eminem is always going to be popular. Let's just, say that off rip. But as far as like the public eye, Joe is the more popular one. He can get on this soapbox and has a platform and can talk all the shit that he wants without even responding to M verbally as far as a back-to-back. Now, do I think it would be good for hip-hop? Sure. But he doesn't have to. I think that M is very hurt, and I think he thinks that because Joe came from his crew, that there's this sense of loyalty that he has to have to him, like you said, in public. But now Joe is not a rapper anymore. He's a media correspondent, podcaster, and he has a duty to do his due diligence as that. So I think M wanted more so, if you're going to say something to me, pull me to the side like a brother and say that instead of just like putting it out in the public.
I think, my personal opinion, and I told Joe this, I want to see Joe rap. I know Joe.
I want to see Joe rap
I know
too.
Joe is retired. I think in his heart, Joe is still a rapper. He admitted on the podcast when he heard the bars, he started mumbling raps to himself.
Yeah.
He started writing
first
raps
instinct.
right there. It's his instinct. Follow your instinct, Joe.
it's going to
This
be
is
hard
hip-hop.
though, because if he responds to M, because Joe talks shit about everyone, so then if everyone starts coming at him, where do you start, right? Like, let's say Drake drops a diss against Joe. Is it like,
he
okay,
has
hold
to
up,
respond.
now I have to respond? Like, that puts him in a very weird place,
It's a
right?
certain caliber of MC. I think you have to respond. We also remember 2 years ago, Joe had about 6 records that he released.
Yeah.
Dissing
Yep.
Drake.
Yeah.
There was about 20 in the stash.
Yeah.
The
And
public
Drake didn't
opinion,
respond.
yeah.
And we criticized Drake
Yep.
for not responding to Joe.
They gave him a couple
because
of jabs to pump it
you
up.
gotta make a record, right?
That was
yeah,
that was like
yeah.
a half. That was
Yeah,
like
that was a
this.
half.
Yeah,
Like-
that
like,
didn't count.
Like public opinion say that Drake is always gonna
This
win.
is the thing with Joe. I think a lot of people's public opinion on Joe is he's in good standing with them. And so I feel like Joe wins without rapping. Because honestly, if we're gonna go into the bar, like let's go into the bar that Eminem said against Joe. Like basically the only hits you'll ever have is hitting bitches. To be honest with
Ouch.
you, even if I take myself out of being offended as a woman for using the DV, the domestic violence, to diss another man, right? you also use it to your credit on the same album. On Normal, he talks about being in a relationship, a domestic dispute
beating
happening, the
his chick.
charges, and all of that. And it's like,
Louisville
okay,
Slugger.
is this a credit or is it a diss? Because you can't use it as a credit to yourself, but a diss to Joe.
Dog, he was
And so
cutting
my
Kim
thing
like
is
10 years ago.
I can't, to me, and not even to be offended, because there's so much behind that's very hurtful. But honestly, it's like, that bar doesn't do much to me just on the fact that you use it for your good, for your benefit, but also, so how is it a diss to Joe?
Yeah.
So
I hear you. I just don't think you could win. I think you got to rap to win.
You got to
or-
have
or-
to
or-
rap
If
to win.
Joe still has rapping in his heart, I think he has to come out. He has to come out swinging.
I wanna see him do
because
it.
if you don't, like literally everyone's eyes are
I don't
on
even
you.
think he has to
honestly,
be-
how many people go at Hove?
Like
And
direct
then
shots.
how many
very
people
few.
does Hove go back at?
I know.
See, that's it.
but
And
That's
it's like
the
he
thing.
doesn't have
This
to
is
do that
Eminem-
to
this
win.
Is, this is Eminem. This is Drake that we're talking. This is the upper echelon.
But this is
I
Eminem
wanna
not
get-
saying anything.
let's
Like
get it-
Eminem didn't say anything bad to Joe, because honestly, like I said, like what did he do to Joe? What did he say to Joe?
It was a diss. Whether it was effective or not, it was a diss and it was a shot.
Well,
whether
that's
the,
what we
whether
have
the
to-
shot hit
If I
or
pinch you
not,
and if I punch you in the face, like there's different gravities.
But the
with it.
difference is though, like somebody like Jay doesn't have a podcast. He's not in the public eye. Every single interview Joe does, so about Eminem.
Right.
So what's going on with Eminem?
Exactly.
Like he can't like run away
And let-
from
I
it. That's
think
the
he
problem.
let's make this-
perfectly though.
let's go back. I just want to one quick thing because I also
Okay.
want to get to MGK because there's
Yeah.
the other layer to this. Joe did say on his podcast, and I see a lot of people agreeing right now, and I want to get your take. He says he feels he's been a better rapper than Eminem in the past 10 years.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. The last few Eminem albums that have come out, with Recovery, the Slim Shady, the Marshall Mathers LP2,
P2.
which was trash, bro.
Right.
I mean,
Last 10 years have been rough. I'm not gonna lie.
last
Okay,
10
okay,
years
I'm not gonna lie.
have
It's been a
been-
bad decade.
last 10
It's
years
been a
have
bad
not-
decade.
He's
Answer the
aged
question.
poorly.
Answer the question. Is Joe a better rapper in the past 10 years than Eminem?
I say no.
I say Joe has been a more. I'm never going to say Eminem is a bad rapper. He just had a
Come
lot
on,
of
Jameer.
bad
Come
albums.
on, Jameer, but is Joe...
In the past 10 years,
Who would I have my money on? I have my money on Joe.
See, but that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I would have my money
A-
on
a
if
lot-
I was a better man. If I was a better man.
Then pick me. If you go with Joe,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are siding with Joe, I get it.
Mhm.
You got to name me 5 Joe Budden records in the
See
last
that?
10 years.
See that?
Wow.
Because when
And that's
Joe was
what I'm
rapping,
saying.
because when Joe was rapping, people told him he was irrelevant. When he was going after Drake, people
Right.
said he was irrelevant. He was the worst rapper. This new rebrand Joe is amazing. People love Media Joe.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to me for people to talk about Joe Budden as this great rapper, and he absolutely is.
Yeah. But people
But it's
haven't-
media.
He's a
Then what are the
very skilled
records?
rapper.
If Joe Budden is so great, what are the records? And
Right.
I just see public opinion being swayed.
Right.
Well,
Joe
'cause
Budden is an amazing rapper,
Public
one of my
opinion
favorites.
has like the shortest memory, right? Like we have amnesia like crazy
That's
in hip hop, and right now Joe is having a great year. He's on an upswing.
Right.
Everyone loves him. But to your point, when he was going after Drake, who is this guy? Who is this guy going after Drake? All those
Right.
Drake
Hated that.
fans had questions. So people
And
forget,
the
like
records
right
were
now.
hot, though.
also Drake
records
fans
were
are not
hard.
necessarily hip hop fans. Like you could be a Drake fan and not be a
I'm-
rap
I'm-
fan.
I'm
But there's a
thinking
lot of
to-
Joe
to-
Budden
Yeah.
fans
I'm
now
thinking
who
to-
can't name any of his records, right? Like
a
they
lot
know
of
him
media Joe
as,
Budden
yeah.
fans. And that, I'm like, don't give me the fake.
Right.
Oh, I'm on this side. I'm on this side. Like we see a lot of that.
But also
being
we
swayed by the
choose who
media.
we like. Like that's people.
Right. I like Joe. I think
we'll
Joe is
vote
amazing.
for president based on
Right.
who we think has a better personality.
Right.
Like you win me off of like even artists. You may not like their music, but you're gonna support them because
Right.
they're cool people. Like Yachty, I do not like his music. He's a really nice
He's
guy.
amazing.
Yachty, we have
Yeah.
just been taking
No,
shots of that.
just,
And I think it's
just,
cool that
just
he has a
shout,
good
shout to Joe too.
personality.
But to anybody, if you can't talk to me about Slaughtermouse, Ordinary Love shit, Love I'm Good, before Future,
Yeah.
Love I'm Good.
Yeah.
If you can't
Yeah.
talk to me about who killed hip hop 15 minutes long, like don't talk to me. I don't want your take on
Right.
Joe Budden versus Eminem. Like this is a rap conversation. We got to talk about rap.
So who? I mean, if you ask me who can rap better, I'm gonna say
Eminem.
I'm gonna say Eminem,
Eminem.
off rip. Who have I enjoyed more musically in the last 10 years?
There.
I'm gonna say Joe.
Okay.
Who has more to lose? Right now, if you go head to head, I think
Joe
has,
won.
and I think he wants to prove himself.
Yeah.
I could see him coming out as the underdog.
I want to see the Joe Budden track. MGK, real quick. Speaking of who had
The best week ever. The best week ever is MGK.
Now MGK starts off just the chain of events, right? MGK
Please.
starts off on Funkmaster Flex, Hot 97, Freestyle, and starts shooting at Jeezy.
White on white hip hop.
Yeah, white on white hip hop
White
is
on
getting
white hip-hop.
real crazy. Jeezy comes back with a formidable diss. It was a
Bad
solid
boy,
response.
Solid.
And then Eminem drops Kamikaze. I feel like we forget about the G-Eazy
Yeah.
MGK thing.
Yeah, it's
and
definitely
get right into the
overshadowed.
shit.
MGK said, hold my drink. Hold my drink, bro.
Because he went for the prize fight. He said,
Yeah.
As he should have.
drop Rap Devil. What do we think of this MGK diss?
I
think it's
enjoyed
great.
it. He punched Eminem in the mouth.
I think it's
He
great.
punched him in the teat. Like Casanova said, he punched him right in the mouth, and as you should. And the thing I liked about the MGK diss was like he was like, "Yo, you the GOAT. Let me start by saying you're my GOAT, you know, but you washed. And if you're a rapper of MGK's caliber, that's how you got to go for the jugular right off rip.
What do you say? Idols become your rivals.
Idols
right?
become
That's what it is.
That's
Yeah.
the term.
Drake
Of, yeah,
And then
yeah.
Ross, yeah.
And then you punch him in the mouth because I mean, if somebody puts your name in a rap, it don't matter who it is as an MC. If you're not retired like Joe,
Look, see,
if
because
you're not
you almost
retired
walked
like
right
Joe,
into that. I seen you walk
but
right
you
into
saw.
that.
He diverted real quick.
If
Yeah.
you're not retired like Joe, you clap back.
But
And
what
that's
I like
he
most
did.
about it was all of the inside information, right? I mean, we knew about kind of MGK going after Eminem's daughter, but I like the behind the scenes. Like,
The
according to
blackballing?
him, yeah, Eminem like
Oh, yeah.
blackballed his career.
Called
Like,
Puff, got my shit shelved.
yeah.
He talked about that on during the Hot
Breakfast Club.
97
Oh, I
heard
Breakfast
on
Club
Breakfast
interview
Club.
as well.
And that to me is interesting, right? Because if a guy of Eminem's caliber, like, why do you care about this upstart coming out of Cleveland?
Because
But
of
if
what
you
he
had
said about his
Kamikaze-
daughter.
Listen, dog.
I think it gets really tricky when it's family. Like, we also got to look at Eminem. Like, we know he has a troubled past. Like, this kid had his relationship with his mom alone shows you how messed up his family life was, right?
Yeah.
This kid was also bullied when he was a kid. He got knocked unconscious. He had to learn how to walk again, learn how to talk again. This is like, his life has been traumatic, right?
Sure.
To say the least.
Sure.
And not to say that anybody else's hasn't, but like kind of seeing where he comes from. Then his relationship with Kim is rocky. His only beautiful, pure relationship is with his daughter, Haley, right?
And always
So-
has been, because he's always expressed that even through the music. the
yeah,
love he has
and
had
so
for his
I
daughter.
feel like when something is said about this thing you hold so close to your heart, I think just parent to child already, but then I can see just why he's so possessive of that. When someone even says she's hot or she's this, it's like, all right, you're coming, like, I'm coming at you.
And she
'cause
was
it's
young
just-
at the time. She was,
Yeah,
she was
she was
16 at
underage.
the
She was
time.
underage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even him saying, well, I was 20 at the time, it's like, yeah, you're still overage.
yeah,
you're
yeah,
still
yeah,
underage.
still illegal,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that could be proof enough why he's not gonna fuck with MGK. That's proof enough, and it's understandable. Also, it's like, honestly, if I don't want you on my platforms, it's like you can't really say much. Like, Shade 45 is M. But I think where it gets tricky is like the Interscope stuff and like
It gets very
the-
tricky because to me, it's like at the end of the day, if you're a rapper, it's rap. And you know what? Eminem has said foul
the
shit
thing.
about other
Right.
people's daughters
Right.
and other people's mothers.
karma.
Yeah, and to
he
me, it's
said,
just.
fuck you to Will Smith.
Well, it's also this idea
He
that
got
you
G
got.
with it, man.
He got. This is happening
Come
right
on
now.
now, yeah.
But it's this idea that you have to separate business and personal. If you're going to take everything personal and fuck up somebody else's money, I don't know how I feel about that. Because in that case, you know, everyone could do something to fuck up somebody else's
Right.
money.
But it also does happen though.
But
like,
that's
real.
the one thing that I think people miss too is that, and MGK said, I think the MGK diss was filthy. I think it was well played. Like he played his best hand, and it's gonna be interesting. I want to see him respond because again, this is hip hop. You know, MGK had kind of said it took you 6 years to respond because the tweet about Haley was in
Right.
2012.
yeah.
Actually, the part that people forget is that MGK was on a song with Tech Nine in March where he was throwing subliminals at M.
And that's why M
you
said
know, you're
that
not
on
the
the
rap
Ringo.
god. So that's why he said, oh, you don't need Tech Nine to throw subs,
Subs.
machine gun.
Right.
And I don't have to say your name. You know who you are,
R. Kelly,
Like,
fire.
yo, those M bars were
Fire.
fucking
That was
Those are good.
fire.
That's
That
good.
was fire.
It was super
good.
fire. Like,
That's good.
you know, so, you know, it wasn't. I
wasn't
think if
as,
if
yeah,
if
spaced
MGK
out.
doesn't get on the Tech Nine song, M is probably not thinking about
Paying
a tweet from
attention.
6 years ago.
And which I totally understand, but again, it is hip hop, and in hip hop we kind of find we know the line between what to talk about and what not to talk
No.
about. We don't, and so
To me, I think anything is acceptable. And if you bring
It's-
someone's family in, then the gloves are off.
the gloves
and
are off.
The gloves are
Same
off.
thing
yeah.
what we saw with Pusha and Drake.
Absolutely.
Pusha T and Drake.
You mentioned my wife. I mentioned your son.
I know
This is it.
I mentioned your life. I will
Right.
literally like read your entire life.
And your friend who's passing. Like,
But what's
dying,
crazy
it's
was,
crazy.
a lot of Drake fans didn't like that. They thought Pusha went way too far. He said a lot of things about like 40 and things like
Tell
that.
him
But it's
hip-hop.
but it goes back to the generational conversation,
True.
right? Like for us, it's hip hop, but I think a lot of other people are
Okay.
like, they're very sensitive. now.
So it goes back to M. Is this album like a last grasp for holding on to the hip hop that he knew? You see what I'm saying? Like the relevance of the hip hop that he, it seems like everybody is willing, my opinion, and you guys can go in, everybody is willing as you kind of age, again, because the worst thing to be in hip hop is called old at this point. So everybody's willing to be like, it's for the kids, I'm good.
Right.
Is Eminem, is this album the last ditch effort to be like, I want to hold on to some of these things where it's like, I'm going to say some foul shit because it's hip hop. Yeah, I'm going to shit on you if you have a ghostwriter because it's hip hop. Yeah, I'm going to be hypocritical about who the fuck I am.
Because it's hip hop.
And my
'Cause it's
drug use
hip-hop.
because it's hip hop.
And I'm Eminem, and I can do that.
Or Pac, who was more hypocritical than Pac? You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Like there was really two sides. I know Letty's
You
gonna
can
hate
say
that.
hypocritical or you can say human.
But
Because we
Eminem
all
too.
have
Hypocritical. Both of them.
So is M not as human as Pac was?
He's
Yes.
human.
Both are.
Everybody.
Both
yeah.
of them are
Yeah.
hypocritical.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's hip hop.
So is
And
it?
so is Kendrick. Like
Everyone's
what he said
hypocritical.
about
Everybody.
Larry,
Yeah.
like,
Everybody.
I'm the biggest hypocrite. I
Right.
talk shit about police killing us, but we kill us in gangs. Like
That's right.
it's real.
Hypocrite.
So,
Yeah.
so does this feel like the last
No,
ditch
I
effort
think,
to
I think he won with this one. I
Okay.
mean, we're talking about Eminem, the raps. Again, we're talking about the rap music. We're talking about his lyricism and the sales. Like from what I've seen so far, I think they're saying about like 300, give or take.
Okay.
That's huge
Yeah.
for anyone in 2018, but for Eminem to come out with a surprise record. So that to me, he's won already. So this isn't a last ditch. I think this is going to encourage him to keep putting out more stuff.
I feel like it's crazy because I don't hate his other projects. Like there are parts of like Marshall Mathers LP2 that I love. There's parts like him and his mom reconcile. Like that's like I think if you follow the story of
Yeah.
M,
That's a cool moment.
those are like deep moments. And I feel like even in this one, Stepping Stone is a
Stepping
huge
Stone,
record.
amazing.
Stepping Stone is him and D12's relationship, him getting introspective, and it's like, damn, I really wish we paid attention to that.
And this goes back to the Joe Budden Slaughterhouse thing. And Stepping Stone, it's like he's admitting that he's not the best leader.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
Right?
fair.
And doing it with D12 because that was the first.
Yeah.
And him that, I don't always get things right. I just want to quote one lyric. I'm glad you said it. Because he's so fucking aware of where he is. This is not old man rap that he doesn't fucking come out the house and know what's going on. He says, 1 minute your body and shit, and then your audience splits. You could already sense the climate is starting to shift. To these kids, you no longer exist. Went from raining cats and dogs in this bitch to tiny drops, little drips, and by the time your reign is over, you'll hardly be missed. Like,
Do you rap?
no.
You sound like a rapper.
I'm
Are you sure?
I'm retired. I'm like,
All right. So I do like the Stepping Stone records. I think it's one of the like big ones that like I remember, and I'm like, oh, this shit is hot. For me, and I understand the reconciliation process, but I'm like, yo, dog, you kind of. To me, the D12 thing is such like 15 years ago. I get that in time you have to put out your own piece, and the story
It's
might
therapy, it's
it's
therapeutic.
it's therapeutic, but like that wave passed by so long ago. It's like I had to kind of go back and be like, oh shit, Conniva and the other.
But maybe
dude,
that's the
and
point.
right?
Yeah.
Which is like okay, but I understand. The concept of the record, I compare it to "Man, I Miss My Dogs" by Weezy.
Weezy,
when
when
you
everybody left Cash Money.
everybody left
he was
Cash
by
Money.
himself.
Good reconciliation record, and I commend M for that. I just think it was like a little past
And
its
everybody
time.
processes things on their own time, right? Like when it comes to growing up in hip hop, either you keep doing like the young people shit or you're too old or you're figuring out how to sort of evolve. And I think we're starting to see, whether it be Nas or Jay or M, what does that mean to come to terms with your past, who you are as a person,
And your age.
and your age,
And
your
that's why
mortality,
I think
Yeah.
it's
a lot
Eminem
of
saying,
things.
I'm
Yeah.
Eminem and I'm going to make a fucking Eminem album.
Right.
I'm not going to make...
Yeah.
And I think it worked
fuck
for
with
him.
Kamikaze.
I don't think
I
it
do
slows him down at all. I think M now says, okay, well, I can put out more music because people are like, oh, okay. Either people are saying it's hot or people are saying it's a lot better than what you put out prior.
Now, question: if we didn't have the diss records, would we care?
No,
I care.
But see,
I would.
I
no,
She would. We have
I
one person who
I
would
would.
care for sure.
I probably wouldn't
Because this
care.
album is bigger than the diss records. The diss records are the headline. There's
That's
meat
like,
to
I
this
can't
album.
wait till
But
we get
that's how
over
you
that.
lead. That's how you lead things in 2018.
Exactly.
though.
It's all about
you
the
don't-
headline.
You don't read newspapers.
You know about headlines, Rob. You've written
You
headlines.
look on Twitter and
I
go,
write stories.
Eminem is this and MGK,
Right.
Charlamagne, Joe Budden.
Yeah,
For the
that-
ones who are going to go in and listen, I think they'll see another story
It's
about
more
a guy
important.
fighting for hip hop.
Yes.
Letty, I want to, because we have to wrap. Because you look like you burning to say something. I just want to give you the closing thought.
Okay, I just want people to listen to Lucky You because Joyner Lucas and M, they showed
That
that,
was
yeah,
fire.
M can have a place now. Like, it's not, yes, he's an old head. Yes, he raps like how we used to love him, whatever. But, like, he can definitely flip it into today, as he proved on Lucky You and Nice Guy and Good Guy and on Fall. And I feel like don't let these diss records distract you from, like, the actual stuff where he's proving himself in today's world. Like, I would just give those a shot.
I don't want him to sing no more. That was my last point. I just hate the force angry
Maybe, he
singing.
said maybe you want him to use auto-tune. Maybe you'll like it better.
I just want
You
him
want
to
to try
rap.
it out a little bit?
I just want him to rap. Don't sing.
I just
That's
want to
cool.
hear MGK response. I would love to see what Eminem has to say because that was a great record.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has
Punch
to,
him in the mouth.
Yeah,
he has to
love it.
respond to MGK. I
Little
want to
bit.
see that also. But that's all the time we have for today.
All right.
Thank you. Talk with us on Twitter. Talk to us in the comments. This is For the Record. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Peace.